end up being a draft. They'll use that to kill off a lot of people like us or our children, that sort of thing. And then, but keep in mind, as a draft comes, who are they going to put in American uniforms? They'll put in like the Haitians and the Bangladeshis and that sort of thing
Sure.
that can be used to kill us. They don't even speak our language, that sort of thing.
True.
This is normal. Keep in mind, historically, this is normal. Listen, I was in special forces, right? Why does special forces even exist? Special forces existed to go raise foreign armies, right?
Yep.
Like Jesuit style, right? I mean that's what they did, and that's what they do, right? And so this I look at it through a lens that maybe some people don't, but I mean this is normal business, is to go somewhere and raise. Look, when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, what did the U.S. forces and coalition forces spend most of their time doing? Raising the Afghan National Army or the Iraqi army, right? The Iraqi police, the Afghan police. We were raising them up. This is normal. And so this is almost certainly what you're about to see in obvious relief in the United States. In other words, here's the draft, time to go to war, and people are like, well, I don't have to go to war because they're going to draft these illegal aliens, so okay, go ahead and go do it. And the next thing you know, your notice is in the mail. And here it is. If you don't show up for the draft, all your funding is cut. Your digital money that they'll end up having, you don't have any money. Your car doesn't work. Your electricity goes out. You can't go through the airport, or you'll be scarfed up and taken to a back room and thrown in a container and taken off to Fort Bragg or something, right? They'll kill you off. Look what's happening with the the Ukrainians.
Yep.
They're kidnapping those guys off the streets. They're going to end up doing this draft. I strongly think that they'll do this. Keep in mind, if you want to sound like Nostradamus of war prediction, just predict these things and you'll be right. The war will grow. The war will grow, and it will grow out of control like a wildfire. It'll last longer than people expect, and it ends up in places that most people didn't predict. But again, this is a process war. It's been going on for many centuries at least. This is our train stop when in it, and people are going to react to it the way that they react to it. If you make mistakes, you may die. This is big boy rules. If you screw up and take the jab, you're dead, right? This is no joke, right? It's it's the same with like landmines. You step, boom, you're dead, right? And it's the same right now. If you answer that draft, they're going to jab you up. You're going to be sent off to some war and you'll be killed, right? That's probably what'll happen. This is not about defending the United States. We all know that. People watching this show in particular realize this is not about defending the United States. Likely they'll end up.
Shalom, Yasha Allah. First and foremost, I'd like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Chachadash, the bonus of beloved elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. While peace and salutations to all you hopeful like talking out there laboring that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. This is your brother Amar from the GMS Boise, Idaho camp, and I'm doing this lesson based on this video that I found floating around online, which I've had in my camera roll for a couple weeks now, so you could say this is a old news, but the point still remains that what this man is saying, this former Green Beret knows how the military works and understands the industrial military complex, and how ultimately they are going to instill a draft because they need bodies to fight these wars that are coming in the future. And if you know the type of men that Babylon has created with this most recent Gen Z, the homo-born Genesis, for those that took the juice, the C19 jab, you're going to see that ultimately these are the dummies that they're going to freaking get to go over there and fight the wars, man. And I've made this comment in a couple videos. I've had three male cousins from my father's side of the family go and join the military, join this man's military. One of them is stuck on an aircraft carrier, and the other two are Marines. One's a Marine, and the other one is in the Army. Join the Army. So what you're seeing here is that the job market here in Babylon the Great is been failing. So a lot of people don't have careers like they used to. And if you know the history of the United States and what happened after the Great Depression, a lot of the people found that World War II was actually a blessing in disguise for the Americans, because their factories went into overdrive, men had jobs, You know, even women had jobs because the majority of women at that time were actually building the tanks, getting the bullets. They were working in the factories because all the men and volunteers and everybody went to go fight in World War II. You know, so what you're gonna see here in this day is the opposite. Nobody wants to go fight in World War III. Nobody wants to go and sit in the mud, sit in the rain, sit in the sand, sit in the heat, get shot at, miss your family, you know, not be able to have access to the amenities that they get here in Babylon the Great. Because what do they say? Weak men create hard times create strong men create good times create weak men. So as we see the cycles continuing, you know, so these weak men that they have are ultimately, you know, not volunteering for the military. You know, I've done lessons on it before that the recruiters in every single military branch except the Marines, rah, no, just joking, have been had their numbers not able to meet the quota, you know. So what's going on is ultimately they're going to have to bring down the hammer, and what that's going to cause is division. You know, we know what happened in the last draft during the Vietnam War. You know, you had a lot of the hippie movement, you had a lot of protests. Slovakia, you had a lot of different things happen that caused a lot of uproars within the American people. So as I was sitting here in spirit, you know, thinking about this video and how to put this lesson together, this applies to scriptures because, hey, man, we go straight to the bread and butter, man. Isaiah 19. And I'm going to start at verse 2. This is, I'll start at the top. The point's at verse 2. This is Isaiah 19 and verse 1. The burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt, Slovakia, shall melt in the midst of it. And we know that this is that judgment coming. You know, the Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Yahushai and the Fathership is going to crack the clouds and ultimately deliver us from the final, you know, Exodus, which is out here in the land of the north, because we know that the Exodus that happened in Egypt, you know, to this day is remembered throughout the world. You know, so this is the Lord intervening on behalf of the Israelites, his chosen, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans of the elect, because we know 2/3 of those people that I listed are going to be unalived here in Babylon the Great. Verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor. City, oh man, that's Salakia. City against city, and kingdom against kingdom. So this is civil war. You know, again, everyone shall fight. So like, and they shall fight everyone against his brother. You know, against his brother, that's your kinsman, that's your family. You know, that's ultimately you're gonna have infighting amongst, you know, American families here in Babylon the Great, because you're gonna have Democrats, Republicans. You're gonna have left versus right. And ultimately, no two people are gonna agree, because we know that Babylon the Great is a melting pot. You know, so you're not going to have any two people that believe the same thing. You know, like in the ancient world, if you were Assyrian, everybody believed the Assyrian way. They dressed like an Assyrian. They didn't mingle other cultures into their societies. But that's not what we see here in Babylon the Great, the land of confusion. So ultimately, nobody's going to want to all fight for the same thing. Continuing, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. You know, kingdom against kingdom of these different nations. City against city is, you know, the infighting. You know, and as you can see, that this is increasing now. You know, the Democratic run cities already don't like the Republicans. You know, the Republicans always talk shit about the Democratic run areas. You know, so you're going to see a lot of that fighting pop off. This is Isaiah 19 and 3. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. Oh, man. I didn't think I was this tired, but, you know, as soon as I start this lesson, I start yawning like crazy, man. That's crazy. Isaiah 19 and 3. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai power, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. So what that is saying is, the Lord, starting from verse 3, uh, uh, the Lord is going to cause these big, mighty American men to get weak, man, not want to go fight. Before, when American boots went on the ground, all these nations started shaking, man. But now other countries have the same weaponry. Like they say, it's all fun and games until the rabbit gets the gun, because everyone's all hunting, they're shooting rabbits, having a good time. But what happens when Bugs Bunny gets the gun, man? He's blasting. This is continuing. I will destroy the counsel thereof, because like scriptures say, is there no wisdom in Teman? Because what this man is doing, he's moving sloppy. He was a big bad American. Now he's over there getting his ass whooped by the Iranians, man. And it's something that all these other countries are taking note of. Continuing, they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. They're going to resort to their falsely so-called science, statistics. They're going to go into their dark technologies. They're going to go into their, covert programs, like they just had over the U.S. military bases in Colorado and different parts of the United States. They had a big black triangle hovering over their installations, which we know Esau does have technologies, but he's going to pull out everything that he has, the top secret military, weapons that he hasn't shown anybody, that he's going to bring it out. And continuing to verse 4, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, because you need a cruel Lord, someone like Nero 47, to instill the draft, to say that the draft should happen, even though he's a 4-time draft dodger. And a draft dodger, if you can look up the definition of that, somebody that's hiding or doesn't go to the draft once they've been called, or they say they have a weak bone, they go and get his doctor's note to say they can't fight because they don't want to go toe-to-toe and actually fight in the military, because we know the history, man. Donald Trump was making money during that time, and so he was really, not wanting to go fight in the Vietnam War. But that's something that, is just beside the point. But that same spirit is going to echo throughout all these people, because nobody believes in what Babylon is fighting for now. Not like anybody did, because you'd have to be asleep to think that they're fighting for anything good. But continuing verse 4, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai power, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. So what you can see is that, this man is ultimately going to have to resort to the sword, threatening people, telling people that they're going to have to do this and do that, or they're going to go to jail, and that's ultimately what is going to come down when he instills this draft. And like all the experts, of the Edomites are even talking about this, So what I wanted to say is that a draft is coming, but when that draft happens, it's going to cause a lot of infighting, because I'll tell you what, nobody in Babylon the Great wants to hear that a draft is happening, And so what I did this lesson for is just to highlight the prophecy that these other nations, these Edomite nations that are in America, special forces, are already talking about a draft coming. And we know that in the beginning of this year, in last year, December, all names were already registered in the draft if you were 26 years and younger. So that same sentiment is going to be pushed forward until this World War III is popped off, man. But we know that those bodies are just going over there to get melted, because we know that the Third World War ultimately is going to be ending in thermonuclear fire. So it doesn't matter how many bodies you send in the Levant region, in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, for Armageddon, for the final battle. Hey, man, they're all going to be melted and laid even with the ground. Thus saith the Bible, as the scriptures describe, when Yahushua cracks those clouds and melts those armies that are trying to subdue him, and that's what they're trying to do ultimately. Get all the Babylonians out, get the draft going, throw as many as they can in prison that don't want to go, and get IDF soldiers over here in the United States to police the rest of the U.S. citizens, and start the New World Order, man. And that's what Esau thinks that he's going to do so easily, but the Lord is going to throw a monkey wrench in his plans, like he already is with the prophets exposing him, and the rest is history, man. He's going down. And with that, hey, man, I pray that this lesson was edifying and uplifting, and informative to what's going on in the psyche of what this man is getting ready to do with the draft. And Lord willing that this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I would like to give all glory, honor, and infinite praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakachodash, and double honors to beloved elders and the apostles at Great Millstone that taught me this truth. While peace and salutations to all you hopeful elect Akim out there laboring, that are pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. Till next time, Lord willing, Shalom.